Boys and girls, did you realize that punctuation can save lives? I'm sure some of you are going, oh my gosh, I know that. I know that punctuation can save lives. And in fact, it can. We are going to learn how punctuation can save a life. With commas! Using commas. Yes, commas are actually a life saving measure, and we are going to find out just how. Despite what seems to be a popular belief, they don't go wherever you feel like. I'm sorry, honey, but we can't take in every stray comma you bring home. That's right, we are going to be learning about the uses of commas today. Now, not every use, because I'm going to be honest, there's about 10 different rules of when a comma could be used. We're going to cover just a few of the basics, mainly those that we talked about last year in second grade. We'll cover most of those, not all even, because like I said, there's about 10. We're going to review just a few basics. Now, how can a simple little punctuation mark save a life? It's really simple. When that comma is missing, you can drastically alter the meaning of your words. Consider the following image. Let's eat grandma. Everybody loves their grandma, but do you really want to eat her? I don't think so. Those commas are very necessary. In this case, let's eat. Grandma, Grandma comes over for Thanksgiving. It's time for dinner. Mom tells you, all right, go call Grandma. Tell her dinner's ready. And you might say, let's eat, Grandma. And in this case, punctuation saves lives. Yes, it does. Another perfect example, slow children crossing. No, friends, this was not the sign for Mr. T as a child crossing the street. As many of you know, I am not the quickest person around. I would have been a slow child. But that's not what this means. That's not what this sign's warning. Instead of warning motorists to slow their speed because of the children crossing the road, it warns of unusually snail-paced children in the area. And although that would have been me as a child, that's not what the sign is for. With proper punctuation, we would be saying, slow, there are children crossing. We're telling the cars to go slow because children are crossing the road. Now, sometimes we're going to use commas, of course, when we are talking about a list of things. Now, when we're making a list, this is a great example, although it goes a little too far. For something you might have, my interests include shopping, dancing, reading, watching movies, cooking, dogs, video games, and it seems to go on and on and on and on and on. Of course, when we are making a sentence with multiple things that we like or have a list of, we'd want to put a comma separating each one of those things. But one rule I've always said is kind of keep it to about 4. When you get more than 4 things in your list, it's time to make a second sentence. So for instance, instead, you might have a sentence that looks something like this. I'm going to type a new one with a much better example of how it should look. So for instance, I might say, Jared's, favorite teams are the Red Sox, Yankees, and Braves. As you can see, after each thing I listed, I used a comma. When I get to that last thing in my list, I want to use a comma, then the word and Braves. We call that the Oxford comma. And of course, Jared has those 3 teams that he really, really loves. All right, let's look at our next page. So let's see, commas are very important. Let's take a peek at some of the rules to remember when using them. Rule 1, always use a comma when to separate 3 or more things in a series. That's right, it's got to be at least 3. If you're just listing 2 things, You could just say, I like ketchup and mustard on my hamburgers. But now we have, I would like a hamburger with pickles, onions, ketchup, and mustard. Well, we are going to need a comma after pickles. And if your list goes at the end of a line, you put the comma at the end of the line, not at the beginning. I would like a hamburger with pickles, onions, ketchup, and mustard. We have that comma before our and. The and comes right before the last thing on our list. Okay, we're heading on to rule 2. Always use a comma when. Oh, this is a great one. Between a city and a state, like Rolling Prairie, Indiana, LaPorte, Indiana, or Indianapolis, Indiana, Chicago, Illinois, New York, New York. Here we have Boston, Massachusetts. Add that comma. Lansing, Michigan. We have the city, we have the state. We have the city, we have the state, and that comma in the middle. Now, I took a few of the rules out, so we're actually going to skip rule 3. Oh, there is rule 3. Sorry, it is in here. Oh, my goodness. I was going to skip rule 3. Sorry. It was rule 4 that I wanted. Now, this time, when we are listing someone's name, either at the beginning of a sentence or the end of a sentence to get their attention, that is another time that we really want to use a comma. So, if we are addressing it, for instance, Kelly, can you have dinner at my house on Saturday night? We'd want to use a comma. In this sentence, they've put the name at the end. Would you like to go to the dance with me, Joseph? We would want to put a comma right here. Teachers are very good about oftentimes putting a student's name when we talk at the beginning of a sentence. For instance, I might say, Jared, go sit down. We would want to put a comma after his name. Or, can you get me that piece of paper, Jared? Again, we would want to put a comma after that person's name. So again, our big focus for today is using commas in lists, when we use a person's name that we are speaking to, before or after, and when we are using for a city and for a state. Now, as I said, there's like 10 different rules when we are using commas. We're just focusing on a few of them here. Now, on the next page of the module is the link to the punctuation game you played yesterday. When you get to the options today, though, you might want to add the commas as something that you can put in. You've had a little bit of work on it now, then you can go and practice it online with a quiz to follow.